Thank you for the invitation to be here today, and thanks for the opportunity to tell you about our Sustainable Cambodia project and how that project has grown into what it is today. And it really is a story of what it has grown into, because this started as a simple project with our Rotary Club of Gainesville. We were trying to address the aftermath of the Khmer Rouge genocide and the horrific living conditions in Cambodia. And like many Rotarians, we were focused on water at the time. And it was just our club. It has today grown into a project which includes clubs and districts from New York, Utah, California, clubs in Alberta, Canada, and 2 entire districts of Western Australia. And we have ultimately delivered safe water to the village families that we had originally targeted and to many more. At this point, it's about 20,000 families that have been impacted by this. But it isn't, so the challenge in Cambodia on the water side was basically they have this dry season that hits after all the floods of the monsoons. The rice paddies are completely flooded for a few months, and then all the water dries up, and none of the villages have any chance to get clean water. It becomes totally dry. The kids are the folks that in the villages that have the job of going and getting the water. So they wind up carrying water like this young man's doing across his shoulders, carrying that water for maybe a mile or more. Well, obviously, if you're doing that all day long, you can't go to school. Also, the quality of the water is so bad that the families are sick with dysentery all the time. So there's just no way to be able to keep the kids in school. So water came first for us, and like I said, we have wound up delivering water into the villages, but the way we delivered the water into the villages was what was really important to us. We didn't want this to just be a gift, where, as was said, you just go in and put in wells, and then a couple of years later a well breaks and nobody can repair it and keep it going. So we wanted to use an empowerment model where the village families would actually get involved. The families would do the hard work of getting the wells installed themselves. They would help to plan the projects. In order to do that, we needed to have trained staff on site. And so what we did was we created a nonprofit organization here in the United States, a 501c3, and then we got registered in Cambodia. And among our founding principles, one of our founding principles is we're guided by the 4-way test in everything we do. Another founding principle is that we have a majority Rotarian, so we have a Rotarian-guided board of directors. And one of our biggest sustaining principles was that everybody involved in the project had to be a volunteer on the international side. So we have no paid international staff, no paid, everybody pays their own travel, their own expenses. That allowed us to have staff in Cambodia that we were able to train, native Cambodians, who were able to then go work with the village families. And as they work with the village families, they work in a pure empowerment model. So in that empowerment model, the village families create development committees, self-help groups, and they decide what projects are going to be implemented into the village. As a result, this grew much broader than any of us ever expected. Part of sustainability is not just trying to rifle in on one thing, but creating a platform of sustainability for a village. We didn't know what the village families needed. The village families knew what they needed. So when they got empowered, the program grew, and you can see it's expanded well beyond wells and water. But in wells and water, we have expanded into biosand filters and rooftop rainwater harvesting and community ponds. But we also have agricultural training, self-help groups, micro business that's mostly agriculture based, so the families can grow crops and sustain themselves, and latrines and sanitation in the villages. So the other part of this was, for long-term sustainability, we also needed to reach out and be sure that the kids were getting educated in the villages. And this was one of the primary things that every single village that we went into wanted. It was top of their list, that they wanted their children to be able to get an education. Most of the schools in Cambodia were far too far away for the kids to be able to get to. So as part of the program, we also implemented education programs. We now have 36 schools in all these community villages in Cambodia. And it runs all the way from preschool through grade 12 and beyond. None of this could have happened without a strong Rotary presence and without visiting Rotarians. So first from our club, Tim Sorrell, who's shown here, was telling, back in 2006, 2007, was telling local village leaders, community leaders about Rotary. And the concept of service above self really captured their imagination. It's primarily a Buddhist country, and somehow service above self just rang true for them. And they wound up creating a small Rotary Club, which Evanston now tells me is one of the most effective Rotary clubs in Southeast Asia. They've only got 25 or 30 members, but they are involved in so many projects over there. Our club, the Rotary Club of Gainesville, actually sponsors them, so that means that we help assist them with their dues. Any of the members that can't afford to pay all their dues, we help to pay their dues, and they contribute with all the time and effort that they're putting into their projects. Again, that concept of having visiting Rotarians involved in this and actively involved. This is D.S. Patel from our Daytona South Club in our district, has been over there on site. Brent Williams, whom many of you will recognize, has been there on site. Tremendous impact when Brent went. Early in the project life, we had a group of Cambodians from Canada, a group of Rotarians from Canada, from Calgary, Canada, who visited the project. They have become incredibly involved, and there are several clubs in Calgary, Canada now that are both on our board and are very active in our programs. They also introduced us to biosand filters, which have become a huge part of the sustainability part of this. Several families will have a biosand filter that they share, and with that they can have clean water from even a shallow well source or even one of the community ponds. We've had visiting Rotarians come in from New York who now are on our board and are active with us from one of the districts in New York. Utah, very active from Utah Rotarians. And then a group of Australians visited us. They have become one of our biggest partners. 2 western districts in Western Australia have banded together to become a central part of Sustainable Cambodia. Very active at the board level, very active in visiting. Of course, that led us at the Bangkok Convention to be able to share a site with them at the House of Friendship, which was terrific to have our Western Australians there. And after the Bangkok Convention, we brought a tour of 40 Rotarians from the United States, Canada, and Australia on a tour across Cambodia. It was a terrific experience as well. From here, I'm going to just kind of walk through and show you a few slides to give you a little feel for what it's like to live in Cambodia and be part of these rural projects. And I'm also going to remind you, I think at the end of this, that we'll have a couple of minutes for Q&A, so if anybody has questions, we'll have a couple of minutes for that. On the water side, we started out with these wells, and we have, I think, 400 some odd wells now that have been installed, and these are all functional wells. We're very careful with our Rotary Club over there and our team on site and all the village families to be sure those wells are continuing and they can continue to repair them. What you're seeing here is a rooftop rainwater harvesting container. Rooftop rainwater harvesting captures the rainwater off the roofs. This is a biosand filter, gives you a feel for what those look like at the family level. All the families get one of those little blue jugs, and those blue jugs all have the Rotary symbol on them. On the agricultural side, we're primarily training the families in how to grow alternative crops that are not just subsistence rice farming, but they can actually take to market, sell, and have a meaningful means of sustaining their family. Cassava melons and sweet potatoes and those sorts of things. We also help to provide seed and organic fertilizer methods. Our animal pass-on program as part of the agriculture program, we actually borrowed this from Heifer International. We visited Heifer International headquarters, and they trained us in their program. And we brought their program and launched it into Cambodia as a result of that. The water buffaloes and cows are really, really important for being able to work in the fields as opposed to getting a tractor that runs out of gas. And pigs are always really popular in the animal pass-on program. At the preschool level, we have kids getting a free hot meal, a protein-rich meal at the beginning of every school session. Those are provided by the village mothers. They organize together to do that. This really gives the kids, the ability to be prepared in school and then to be able to move on. They're also trained from an early stage on water safety and sanitation and health care, brushing teeth, etc. That all moves them up to the level of being ready to go into grade 1. We have schools in every village that go from grade 1 through grade 12, community schools. And every one of the larger community schools has one of these libraries, like you see here. Libraries are a real center hub of the activity. Kids that live too far away, these are all rural rice farming communities, so some of these families are going to still live too far to be able to walk to the school every day. And those kids get a bicycle that they can take up and down the little rutty paths along the rice fields. I think I might have gone the wrong way, sorry. We also, in the schools, we have the kids learn about agriculture, about sustainability. They also have some vocational elements. This happens to be one of our sewing programs, and these girls are obviously having way too much fun. This slide gives you a little feel for what it's like to be part of the village meetings. This happens to be a meeting of some of the mothers that are coordinating cooking those high-protein meals for the kids in the preschool. So this is where they meet, and even if we have a self-help group or a community development group, it usually happens underneath one of the houses. The houses are all on stilts because of the floods that occur during the monsoon. So this is where they meet, very sweet and very empowered families. Our schools, as the kids get older, they get to participate in youth clubs. The youth clubs are all modeled on Interact, which is a very convenient model. And this youth club happens to be, they do community projects and things, and this group is out helping to solicit kids to go sign up for school and at the beginning of the school year. And just a note on women, on girls, we have more than 50% of all of our enrolled students in the programs are female. It's really, really an important part of the program, and you can tell from this slide how sweet they are, just incredible, incredible human beings, from little tiny kids up until they get to go to university. And we do have a program that when kids graduate from our grade 12 schools, they can be sponsored to get a scholarship to a Cambodian university, and we have had some 200 plus kids so far that have graduated and gone into Cambodian university from these little rural villages. So those are really going to be the leaders of tomorrow. I want to remind everybody that there will be a little Q&A time at the end, so if anybody wants to get to a microphone, what I'm going to do is just walk through 3 or 4 slides that just kind of summarize this, and then I'd be happy to take any questions. Again, we're focused on this empowerment model, village participation. That's the underpinnings of sustainability. From that underpinnings of sustainability, some 400 plus wells, 20 community ponds in these villages, about 20,000 families that have been impacted, some 2,500 biosand filters that have been produced. And those are produced by the families with molds that we provide to them. The alternative agriculture allows all these families to produce a sustainable income for themselves and for their family. The animal pass-on element not only helps them to plow their fields or to have food for their family, but it also empowers them as donors because they get to donate animals to another couple of families in their village or in a neighboring village. So it empowers them in every way. The preschools helping to get that cognitive pre-development that's needed for the kids to be able to succeed as they go into further into school. Actually, I think at this point we have more than 6,000 kids in the schools, and my slide's really out of date. We have 36 schools instead of 20 plus. More than 200 university scholarship recipients, as I had mentioned. And again, this was all driven by the on-site engagement of involved Rotarians, all those visits that took place, and then the collisions that occur from that, like the Australians joining us and the Canadians joining us in this project, so that it has truly become a worldwide effort. And just a number of the clubs here and a number of the districts that are active participants. And I just want to conclude by, number one, thanking the Rotary Foundation and thanking all of you for your involvement in Rotary and Rotary Foundation, because that is what makes all this happen. All those kids that are going to have a completely changed life and who are going to have the opportunity to get out and change their country after the Khmer Rouge thing, all that takes place because of what you are doing and what you're supporting. So thank you for that. And I'd also like to say an invitation here. If you ever get a chance to visit Southeast Asia, I hope you will please contact us. Just go to the website and contact us. And we would love to greet you at the airport, and we will get you out and let you meet the rural families and be part of what's going on out there. So thank you. Thank you. And there is, yes, so question?
Yes, Bob Wilson from 7680 Charlotte. There were quite a few of us in this room that that had an opportunity to visit this part of the world during the Vietnam War. Yeah. And it's a pleasure to be personally a member of an organization that is based in the United States that is doing what you are doing there. I was just wondering, having been in that part of the world before, there are many cultural differences, and I was wondering if you could elaborate on one or two of the largest obstacles that you met in trying to develop this incredible project and how you solved those problems.
Well, that's really a great question. And number one, thank you for your service and everybody else that serves. And we're really happy also to be able to be over there making a difference in this part of the world. I think, some of the cultural differences probably went to when folks don't have the underpinnings of an education like we're blessed with in our country and in the developed world. They just don't always know what's possible. Over here, I think we're raised with a philosophy. Certainly, the Americans are raised with a philosophy. We can do anything we put our minds to. It's just a matter of determination. You can make it happen. Over there, that isn't necessarily so. There is quite a kind of cooked-in philosophy of, gosh, well, I need to be helped. Can somebody please help me? So I think one of the major challenges that we had was in being able to really foster empowerment in the villages. It isn't just as easy as just walking in and saying, well, gosh, you guys should all be empowered and tell us what you want to do and we'll tell you how to do it. It really takes a lot of work to make that happen. So that's probably the biggest cultural difference. From the government perspective, we get asked a lot about government, and the government's actually being relatively helpful over there. But they have a lot of work to do, so they don't really get out into these little rural villages at all where Rotary gets to work. Yes?
Yes, Richard, Tom Faulkner, 7750. I'm so excited about that empowerment model. It is the key. Very exciting what we see in El Salvador and Honduras and hopefully Haiti at some point. But the question I have is your board and the organization in country. Is there any participation by the Cambodians on your nonprofit board through Skyping, or how does that organizational structure fit?
Yeah, really good question, Bob. We've and I've only got 15 seconds to answer, but I'll do it quickly. We do once a week. We hold an executive management team with a meeting by GoToMeeting, Skype, Citrix, that kind of thing, with our teams over there. When we first started, that wasn't possible because the internet wasn't possible. Now we get to do that. So they're very actively involved with all of our Rotarians. We have Rotarians from Australia, Canada, United States, and Cambodia, all on those calls once a week. So very helpful. That's it. I'm out of time. Thank you very much.